What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome along. Always love having new faces around. If you could drop me a like or a subscribe, I'm not sure if I'm pointing in the right directions. Either or, that would be great. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. Now in today's video, we're going to be talking about a movie that I was personally really excited for just because of how weird and bizarre it looked. Now I mean, you've already seen the thumbnail or the title of this video and you know we're going to be talking about A24's Lamb, okay? Insert Gordon Ramsay meme here. I'm going to keep this opening part of this video spoiler free. So if you haven't watched it, feel free to stick around. The one thing I will say about Lamb to kick things off is that similar to other A24 movies, it is not really what was advertised. And when I say that, I mean that Lamb was pretty much advertised as this kind of witch-esque horror cult movie about a family who had adopted this sort of lamb-human hybrid. I mean, that sounds like a hell of a plot, and I'm sure many people who did watch it did so because they were, you know, looking forward to something that had to do with the occult or just nature versus humanity. While we did get the whole nature versus humanity angle, there were certain things that I was going into the movie expecting that didn't pan out at all, which left me feeling a little bit disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I know reviews of this movie have been very polarizing. If you want an example, you can just go to Angry Joe's review about it. It's pretty much 3 of them reviewing it. 1 loved it, 2 absolutely hated it. And I think that's kind of the vibe that Lamb gives off. It's very difficult to be on the fence about it, although I'm doing my absolute best to be on that fence. I've almost given myself a week to kind of let the movie marinate and kind of simmer down. I think if I did this review right after watching it, we'd be getting a completely different review. But I have to say that kind of a movie that doesn't warrant its 1.5 hour runtime. I know in a lot of my videos, I always hammer home the point about movies being too long or runtime and all that jazz. But when it comes to Lamb, I really felt that it was better off being either a short film or, you know, a telemovie rather than a full-length feature film. It's just my opinion, but I get the feeling that that's kind of right, so feel free to debate. Now very quickly, the things that I did like about Lamb, okay? It is very creepy, especially at the start of the movie, which does then contribute to some of the things that perhaps let me down later on, because they do set things up well, but oftentimes they don't have any payoff for these setups. I mean, if you've watched the movie, you know what kind of where I'm going with this. I did like how the movie was shot. I thought obviously the scenery where it was shot, I think it was shot in Iceland, very beautiful surroundings, you know, and they were captured to a T. They really captured the essence of the great outdoors and just this horrible sense of isolation, which I felt was a huge missed opportunity, because I can't imagine like that wouldn't get creepy at times, but it wasn't really a factor in this movie. What else did I like about this movie? I thought the acting was good. For the most part, this film is not very dialogue heavy at all. It has a lot of scenes where the farmers are pretty much just doing farm stuff. You know, it's a very day in the life-esque movie where they are either rearing sheep or out, you know, harvesting potatoes or whatnot. And these moments can get a little bit draggy because they just feel like filler. It's not really leading up to anything, you know. If they were trying to emphasize the point that this couple is stuck in a very mundane and routine life, fair enough, but it kind of doesn't really go anywhere. So I liked the acting to an extent and the cinematography, and of course the music. I thought the music was, or not even just music, like the ambient noises, very chilling and creepy. There's this one particular shot where the camera zooms in on a photograph and then you just hear like the bleating of sheep, and the mixing is done in a way where the bleating slowly morphs into this really devilish sound that Just talking about it now, I'm getting goosebumps, man. But unfortunately for all my A24 fanboys and fangirls, I would say that is where the good points kind of end, because like I said, I don't think this was the worst movie ever, far from it, but it's also something that I'm probably not gonna watch again, just because, like I said, the payoffs weren't really met, and any sort of tension or rewatchability that comes with movies just isn't really there. If you're looking to watch something that's, you know, very rich in the occult or very horror tropey, Lamb isn't your movie. Lamb is more of a slow burn, day in the life, with the main theme being you know, loss and overcoming grief and loss. The other theme that's heavily emphasized is do not mess with nature. I know there's a better way to phrase that, but that's the one that's coming to my mind. If you mess with nature, chances are it will mess back with you. Lamb is certainly a bizarre and weird movie, but is that enough to warrant you sitting through it? Minus, you know, the lack of tension and sort of horror build-up that many of us were expecting. In my opinion, no. But if you're just looking for a film that's more of a slice of life with a weird kind of Nordic twist to it, then I guess Lamb's right up your alley. I think it's good to know what you're getting into before you actually watch it, because the one movie that comes to mind, which was also done by A24, that I was reminded of by Lamb, was It Comes at Night. I remember I watched this in the theater and there were resounding boos at the end credits, because a lot of people who had bought a ticket to watch It Comes at Night were left very disappointed because they felt like they were sold something else and the movie was presented in a completely different way. And that's what I got from Lamb. I went in expecting a occult horror movie with, you know, a really weird kind of premise, and it's not what I got in the end, so I can understand why some people weren't happy with the film. Now on to more spoilery things. So if you haven't watched it and you're planning to, you know, you can pause this and come back to it at another time if you'd so please. But yeah, let's jump into spoilers. The first thing I want to talk about is how when this sort of lamb human hybrid comes out, none of these farmers ever really seem puzzled by it. They are just kind of like, baby lamb human hybrids, sign me up, you know. This isn't weird at all, which I don't know, that kind of pulled me out of the pulled me out of the experience, because I thought that was going to be the whole premise of the movie, like them kind of figuring out where this I'm gonna call her by her name, the baby's called Ada. They're trying to find out where Ada came from. But no, they pretty much are on board with it right away. And I know some people who have watched it are going to counter this point by saying, well, the couple lost their own daughter, also named Ada, like a couple years ago. So I think they're just so overcome by grief that they just pretty much see this creature as a blessing to restart their life. But I would have liked a bit more believability, and I know that sounds rich coming from a movie with a lamb human hybrid, but the characters almost come off as insane, but not quite insane, if that makes sense. It's like they're stuck in limbo, like they haven't completely gone off the rails, but they are certainly no longer like what you would consider normal people. Another thing that the movie introduces is a brother character of our male protagonist, and I thought this was a great way to introduce some tension and conflict within the family, because here comes a new character who is obviously going to be the one who starts questioning what the couple is doing with this infant, but he kind of tapers off after like 10 minutes. Like he does mention it in passing that what they're doing is completely unnatural and crazy, but then he also kind of joins them in their charade and the tension is gone. The only kind of tension that he brings is the fact that he's constantly trying to grind up on his sister-in-law, which is, you know, really creepy. But even that isn't handled in like a very convincing way. It's almost too like friendly, I guess. There are no consequences for their actions in this particular setting. So like the brothers' arc is pretty much show up, be part of the family life for a while, try to hit on his sister-in-law a few times, and then he just disappears without, you know, anything else, which I thought was a bit of a missed opportunity. The last spoiler is of course the biggest one. It's how the movie ends. And by this point, I felt like I had been strung along for like 80 minutes and I was just so desperate for a good payoff. Like I was checking my phone to see how far into the movie we were, and it was like about 70 to 80 minutes in and nothing had really happened. Or nothing of substantial consequence. Like what sort of propels a movie forward is the rising action, but with The Lamb, it's pretty much just a straight linear line with a few tiny bumps. The only kind of real story beat that changes everything is when the female protagonist shoots one of the lambs, the actual mother of Ada in this case, because she's just making a hell lot of noise. And ultimately that is the action that leads to her husband's demise. And you're gonna talk about shock factor. This ending definitely did have shock factor, but it just happens so fast that it doesn't give the audience any time to process it. It's like before we know it, the husband's dead. The husband is basically killed by this goat-man hybrid, which, you know, explains Ada's kind of appearance. And the goat-man, or the ram-man, as I've seen online, was kind of hinted at a few times. Like we saw his kind of silhouette in like the eyes of the dog and like the window reflections. But you can't just expect your audience to be like okay with it without a proper setup. Like there was this ram that looked really menacing, but he doesn't make a reappearance. And like I said at the start of the video, a lot of things that were set up just didn't have a payoff, which kind of leaves the viewer with a huge feeling of blue balls come the end of the film. If I were to sum this film up to someone who wants to watch it but hasn't heard anything about it, firstly I'd tell them not to watch the trailers because those are misleading. And also I would sum it up as pretty much a twisted Nordic fairy tale. I think that's a pretty apt analogy because it's not a horror film, it's not a thriller, it's really just a slice of life about a family trying to overcome grief by substituting their deceased daughter with this new lamb human creature. And there was a lot of potential there. I just felt like maybe the director was trying to go too art house with this. So yeah, A24, this was a little bit of a miss for me. I give Lamb a 5.5. Yeah, if I reviewed this right after watching it, I probably would have given it a 6. But after kind of letting it stew for a while, I think 5.5 is probably fair. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the video. All in all, I think Lamb was something I perhaps hyped up too much. But yeah, let's move past that. Let me know what you guys would like me to review next in the comments below, or you can go on Instagram and find me at SceneStreamer. But yeah, until next time, take care everyone.